H100K post-race wrap-up, and it is so exciting to be able to do this, especially since we're wrapping it up with the very first interview that we did in our runner profile series to get ready for the race. Is our very first interview that we're doing. It's a post-wrap-up, and that is with HollyAnn Swan. I'm going to introduce her to you all. If you don't already know her, you probably do, but I'm going to introduce her. But really just want to take a minute to say thank you to all of the sponsors of the Hurricane 100K, our title sponsor in the city of Hurricane, and Mayor Scott Edwards put up the $7,500 prize purse that we're able to give away, and our presenting sponsor and Little Caesars, which meant we had tons of hot and ready pizza there at the finish line. Not only did we feed runners, we fed crew and families, tons of pizza with hot boxes. So it truly was hot and ready for everybody there, and a ton of local sponsors. Also, our volunteers, over 40 people went in to make this day, and it was a long day for many of them, Friday and Saturday. And it's not just for that race, but those trails on Meeks Mountain have been handcrafted and hand-built. Over 350 unique individuals, 13,000 hours have gone into them. And you know, HollyAnn, you probably saw this too, but it is absolutely amazing the community of volunteer support that we have that's going into those mountains too. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So I want to introduce HollyAnn Swan to you. She's 27 years old now, a toxicology lab manager, originally from Blunsville, Alabama, now currently makes her home in Huntington, West Virginia. Proud to have her as a West Virginian now. She ran for 4 years at Auburn University in Montgomery, then 1 year at Marshall University in both indoor and outdoor track and field. She is the current record holder of all distances at Auburn Montgomery, and the Marshall University track and field record holder at the 5K and 10K distance and the medley relay distances. She is the 2021 women's champion of West Virginia's Rim to River 100 miler and is smoking fast, 19 hours and 37 seconds, where she was also fourth overall. It's 40 minutes, an hour and 40 minutes ahead of the next closest lady. Plus, she's the winner of the inaugural Cabin Fever 50K champ in 4 hours and 17 minutes, seventh overall. She's sponsored by The Feed, one of my favorite sites, Rabbit Running, Noon Hydration, Coros Global Explorer Team, and now she is also, can add to this, the inaugural winner, course record holder, first lady, third overall of the Hurricane 100K in a blistering time, 9 hours, 31 seconds, 31 minutes and 32 seconds, which is a 9:12 pace for the whole 100K for 62 miles. Absolutely, totally impressive, HollyAnn. Welcome back to the show. How are you feeling after this weekend?
I'm getting there. Legs are starting to recover. I know I woke up Sunday morning, my calves and ankles were wrecked, but they're slowly but surely coming back around.
Yeah. So what do you do? I mean, after that, I mean, yeah, I know it's you know, things hurt, but you're still riding high. I mean, are you going out for a little recovery run? Tell us how you recover from things like this.
The more experience I get, like the quicker the recovery is. I'm learning, but I haven't ran yet. I might get like a small run in tomorrow, but the last 2 days I've kind of been doing a super easy cycle or spin.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, you know, one of the things, so let's do this. I want to start out with this lightning round. We're going to kind of get you loosened up here, brain firing, those synapses going okay. So I've just got some quick, like, rapid fire questions. So no thinking, just answer. And these are easy ones too. Okay. So very first one, for running, winter or summer?
Oh, winter.
Yeah, absolutely. Fist bump on that one too. We're about to get rid of these spider webs. So the first freeze, man, I'm just like, send those spiders packing. I want to talk about spider webs. Okay. All-time favorite movie?
P.S. I love you.
What is it?
P.S. I love you.
Oh gosh, never even seen it. Got to watch it now. All right. So favorite cartoon as a kid?
I really liked Ren and Stimpy. It's like a super old 90s cartoon show.
Super old 90s. Talking super old 70s right here. So I know Ren and Stimpy. So the most craved post-race food item or drink?
Ooh. I typically do, like, especially after like this past weekend, it was really humid. I'll spend that last lap thinking about beer. So I
Yeah,
know, like, it was really awesome that you guys had Athletic Brewing at the finish line. I was ready for that.
awesome. Very good. And, I mean, that really does hit the spot
It
too,
does.
without the detriment of the alcohol to recovery. So that
Definitely.
was great. They were a great sponsor. Our friend Matt Stevens brought that for us too. He's an ambassador for him. So awesome. Glad you enjoyed that. So if you could have one superpower, any superpower, what would it be?
Hmm. Um, I think the ability to read minds.
Oh
I, s-
man. Oh
I
no.
know, I know. I spend a lot of time psychoanalyzing, so I feel like maybe if I could interpret to make sure that like my thoughts are correct.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, it doesn't have to be to run fast. You already have that one too. So, your flash, you've got that one already. So, I had a message from Caleb today, and he shared with me the stat that your 100K time this weekend is the 16th fastest time in the country. And that's with road races. You pull out the road races, and it's the fifth fastest on trails. And I'm gonna ask you to kind of describe the course too, but I don't think it's not because this course was easy.
No.
I don't think it's because it was easy, but we'll talk a little bit about that. So, but if somebody, let's get you started here. If somebody just came up to you and said, HollyAnn, how was the weekend? How do you describe it all?
Oh, that's really hard.
We got time. We don't come in here. Let's just do it. People can, the millions of watchers out there, the followers, they can turn us off whenever they want. We've got time. Just take your time.
I really love the 100K distance. This weekend, I've kind of had a challenging day, and back in April when I did my first 100K, I also had a challenging day. So I'm hoping that one of these days it'll all fall into place. But that 62 kind of seems to be the sweet spot. I love the longer distance, but it's right there in between 150K that I still feel like I can keep my legs moving the whole time. So I feel like this weekend was kind of like the ideal weekend. I'm able to spend it on some of my favorite local trails, being part of an inaugural event. It was fantastic just to be there at Hurricane 100K. It was also awesome to be a part of Rim to River, the first 100-miler in West Virginia. So just kind of being part of that West Virginia history. So I don't know. It's kind of a dream.
Yeah. So what made it a tough day for you?
So I guess I made it around the first lap, and my legs felt super heavy, and I just couldn't get them to move and roll like I've been able to do the last few months in my races, and automatically knew it was going to be a long day. So I guess like super early, within 10 miles of the race, I was already kind of feeling like I was starting to hit a wall. So I just had to grind kind of for the remaining 50 of the race.
So, and I would kind of bring this into it, but I've got this great picture of you, and I'm going to see if I can be able to share this. I'd like to share my screen. Just bear with me here just a second. I'm going to share my screen. And I want to share this with everybody too, because this is, can you see that?
I can see it.
Yeah. So this is you, and it's a little blurry, but this is the weekend before at the Charleston Distance Run. Man, I was standing on the bridge. This is mile eight of the Charleston Distance Run, which is a 15-miler road run. You just come out of the hills, which is the toughest part of the race. You came through in 48 minutes. I was looking at my watch. Caleb came through in 43. You're there in 48. And look at that smile. I mean, and I wondered then, because you both ran great. Maybe that wasn't like an all-out effort for you, but But it really was. I mean, that was a great event. How did you feel after that? Do you think that had anything to do with it, or was that just a good tune-up for you?
So the plan for CDR was to definitely be that last long run, last workout effort before Hurricane. And so I definitely went into it thinking of it as more of a workout. Um, but I'd ran CDR in 2018, so 4 years ago in 136. And at that time, I was marathon training. I was in 245 shape
Yeah,
and somehow came across the line last Saturday, 6 minutes faster than that.
sure did. 130.
So I think it was probably definitely a little bit quicker than I should have gone, but I like throughout the week, like I felt recovered by the time that the 100K rolled around, but you're probably right. It probably did take a little bit out of me.
I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just asking the question. Because I mean, that kind of effort, especially as you get older, you realize, I mean, and those hills, you know, if you were sore afterwards, it's only because of pounding those downhills. It's hard. If you do those right, you have to pound them to be fast.
You do. I think like the biggest thing that I felt after CDR, my hamstrings,
Yeah.
um, they were they were pretty worn out, and I think like that was kind of what I was starting to feel after that first 10 miles was my hamstrings were starting to burn. So
Yeah.
I might not have been 100% recovered, but
Well, so let's talk about that because here's, when you talk about the first lap, your legs were heavy. So that mid-course aid, so to put this in perspective, that mid-course aid session, I was trying to figure out when you guys would come through that first loop. And when you go out and do training runs, I know when Caleb ran the pre-race, we did the back on Memorial Day, he was running like 130, high 130s, 140, kind of an easy thing. So I said, but this is 62, so probably going to take it easy. It's in the dark. Those first two trails are tough in the dark. And so I told the mid-course aid station, I said, be ready at 6:30. Expect them around 6:45. And that was great. And then I told everybody else, I said, they'll probably be through here like 135, 140. Well, all four of you. So Caleb led the way, Alex, Dan, and you are right there with them in 127 coming through that first loop. Absolutely smoking fast. Did it feel that fast for you?
it didn't. So I know when we first started, it felt super slow. I actually joked about how it was drastically different than CDR the Saturday before.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started and we were all talking, chatting for the first 3 or 4 miles, and it felt really easy. And then I'm guessing that at some point the pace started to pick up, but I didn't realize it because I kind of had an oh shoot moment whenever I saw that time on the clock whenever
Yeah.
we came across the first lap, because I had the same expectations as you. I was like, I know it'll be a super good day if I'm 130 to 135 during these laps, but I know that first one will be slower in the dark, and seeing 127 was a little alarming.
Yeah. And I mean it was the three of them and you're right there and I was like, man, oh man, this is going to be a race. It's going to be a race. What's really cool, and I love having you on here first. This is a Trail Sisters race, and so we did everything. Even had a women's only bathroom. They don't require that, but we had that for you all, and really wanted to make sure that the women, felt loved and appreciated, and we were there for you. But I love seeing you coming through, racing those boys. Ending up third overall as it was. But you said you struggled, but let's look at your splits. Your splits were 127 for the first one, 130, 135, 137, 141, that last one at 138. So really, it may have felt hard, but you were right there in that range all day long. But it does get, even though the splits are even, it gets harder as you go. It gets harder to maintain those splits throughout the day, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
Well, there was a couple times, and I'm gonna share another picture with you too because it was funny. I commented on the when we were at the CDR just how smiley you were. there. And I didn't see as much of that at the 100K.
No, like I said, I was hurting. I was actually a little more smiley coming through the finish lines.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
had
yeah.
talked to Bob about that, where I was just kind of battling my thoughts in the woods, but then popping out and seeing all of you would kind of bring me back to a good place.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's we'd just sit and watch for you all coming out of the woods, and then I don't know if you could tell, but the place kind of erupted when anytime we'd see a runner. And for those lead runners, I mean, it was fun to watch it pop out and then come down through. So we had a warning. It wasn't just like all of a sudden you're there. We knew when you were coming. Could you feel that out there too?
We definitely did. And I know, like, especially in the first two laps, you kind of start to listen for the cheering too while you're in the woods. You can hear 2 miles out when somebody comes across the finish line. So
Yeah, yeah.
there in the beginning, you were able to, I was like, okay, there's Caleb and Alex and Dan coming across the line. I
Right.
could tell how close I was.
Well, this is the look of relief when you're finished. I had this one right there ready to roll too, but you still, I don't mean to sound, and here you are, you and Alex and Caleb are top three runners there at the finish, and you with your beautiful buckle medal there too, and a beautiful smile, and so it's fun, but that's the crazy thing, HollyAnn, that people don't really get is maybe you can talk about it a little bit. Man, it is so hard and it hurts, but it is so good. It is such a good hurt, especially when you're finished.
It is. It's so rewarding. Especially the more experience you get, you just it's hard to realize, like how you're going to feel afterwards until like you've experienced it that first time. But a lot of times when you're out there and you're battling the challenges, you can think back to prior races and just like I'm not hurting as bad as I was then, or I felt this after I accomplished this. So
Yeah, yeah,
today's going to be all worth it.
it is. And it's one of the cool things. They call it runner's amnesia, which I think is really cool, which is that, when it's done, we have this ability. I think it's a God-given ability that we can't recall pain. It's like you can recall joy, you can recall other emotions, but you can't recall pain. And that's the only reason that women are able to give birth to more than one child, I think, too. It's like, but that hurts that bad. You're only going to do that once, but when it's done, it's kind of erased with the joy of the accomplishment or the success, and you just can't. You can remember that you hurt, you can't recall the specific pain. Love these pictures here of you all on the finish line too. I mean, and that's with our good mayor there as well. So, it's just want to go back to having Bob Luther as your crew. So, tell me about how that came about.
Yeah, so he was kind of a voluntary crew chief of mine. He probably didn't realize the amount that he was going to be my crew chief until race morning. But Caleb had asked him to be his crew chief. And of course, my husband and the relay team were going to be there. So they
Right.
would be able to take care of me. And the more I thought about it, I was like, well, having somebody that's here the whole time that, instead of
Yeah.
when Chris is away trying to tell the other two to take care of me, it might be easier just to let Bob know. So I might have thrown him into things even if he didn't want to.
Oh no, he loved it. He loved the naps. He was ready to go.
He did such a good job. I can't imagine a better crew chief, honestly.
Yeah. So tell me about some of those things that kind of what how important it is to have somebody that has the experience like Bob Luther and what he was able to do for you throughout the day.
Yeah, so one of the craziest things about Saturday is I went through a little over 5,000 mils of water, a lot more than I'd anticipated going through. It was so humid. I was sweating. Like I was just taking in so much water than the last 4 laps, I was getting a full refill at the halfway aid station. I was just going through so much water. So my thing for Bob was he had my backup bottle filled and ready to go whenever I came through. So that's awesome. Saves so much time from me having to go to the aid station and fill it. He already has it filled. And I was trying to take in 2 to 3 gels per loop. And I'd always take out my trash and he'd pay me 3 more to replace for the lap. It's also just great. There's things that you think about like while you're out there that you're not going to anticipate needing. Like during the race, during the first 3 laps, in my gels and the noon powder in my bottle, I just kind of got a little overwhelmed with how sweet everything was. And I was just kind of craving something salty. And being able to relay that to your crew so that, you know, they have something ready to go when you come back around is really awesome too.
Well, so you came through the second loop and asking for broth, and we didn't have it ready because it was early. And I said, I'll promise we'll have it ready when you come back. So we had some chicken broth ready after that. It really didn't get used much, but I know how good it is for the stomach at times, even though it was hot. And so I just thought they'll need it later. And so we'll make sure to have it ready earlier. I didn't think people would want it that early, but definitely mixing the salty and the sweet is key, especially when you're going that long. For those of people, and I'll embarrass Bob a little bit. I'm gonna tell a couple stories on Bob as part of this too. But Bob is a lieutenant colonel in the Army, and he's Special Forces, Green Beret, and Army Ranger. And he's now the head of one of only 6 Special Forces units in the country. Is his new command. So if you want somebody to take charge and tell you what to do and how to do it and inspire you, is Bob Luther. But don't come to him to be coddled. I was kind of watching when you came in. He's right up in your face going, "How bad do you want it?" I don't even know if you remember. You kind of looked like a little bit. I think it was like 5th loop, maybe going out on the 6th. How bad do you want it? One other story. He was also crewing for our friend John Baldwin. And so when John came in, I was trying to, because his first lap was fast. So all kinds of people's laps were too fast. And I was like, ain't nobody holding this thing. Very few people. Chris actually put 2 pretty good laps. A few people did, but most came through that first lap so fast. But John came through, and so I asked him later, so what was your lap? And he was like, and Bob interjected and goes, "Too long. Get out." Get out there. And I was like, give him you don't get a break. He'll give you your snuggles afterwards, but you're not going to get him during the race. So
he will. He's really good at tough love, and he's really good at motivation. He'll find out what motivates you and push you. I know, like, kind of funny story about him with HollyAnn Swan. He sent me and Caleb a ranking of how he thought that everyone would finish. And he had ranked me a 2nd. And I was like, "Are you kidding?"
Yeah, no.
I was like, "I'm going to prove Bob wrong." And turns out he knew that would motivate me, and he was kidding the whole time.
I was going to say, who's going to beat you out there? There wasn't anybody in that field to beat you. The story that Caleb told me too is that when you all ran out and the training run and ran down Boar's Nest, Bob beat him down the hill and goes, "Dude, I just beat you down the hill by 5 minutes. Running that slow," or something. And he was like, "Yeah, better get better on the downhills." Bob's good on the downhills though too. But no, he'll find it. I don't know that I mean, I love Bob. I don't know that I want him as much. I think he's gonna.
You don't want the tough love. He'll make you cry in the middle.
No, I cry too much. I'm just way too whiny. Bob's not going to put up with me. He wouldn't want to crew me anyways. He's like, "No, dude, he cries at every race, so you can do hard things, even if you have to cry a little bit, right?" So.
I think that's what BP said on one of the last podcasts, is that Bob was crewing him, and he was hurting so bad, and he came through the aid station looking for like sympathy, and Bob says, "Well, you signed up for this, right?"
Yeah, right, exactly. Everybody hurts. It's like, that hurt. Yeah, of course, everybody hurts. Everybody hurts. Right. If you don't, you didn't run hard enough. And that's what we're doing out here. So that's good. So, as far as that goes, let's talk about the loops. Have you done a loop course before like that?
I've never done a loop course. I think I was very nervous about this race just for that fact. I knew it was going to be a mental race. And so I definitely had that in the back of my mind.
And so what was, and now that it's done, say
Yeah. Yeah, I think I had done 2 loops for training runs twice prior to the race. And both times that second loop was a little tougher. Granted, we did it in the middle of the summer, super hot and humid, but I know like that was kind of resonating in the back of my mind. I was like, man, like the second loop is hard just on a training run. Like
right.
I'm gonna have to do 6 of these.
Yeah.
So I think like pumping it up in my head that it was going to be so tough, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought.
Right.
Even if you're not familiar with the trails, you kind of start dissociating. You'll see landmarks, you'll see a rock,
Yeah.
and that will be your next like. I just got to make it to that rock. Okay, now I got to make it to the hill up there. Now I got to make it to the halfway point. So you start kind of having like little mini goals when you have a
Right.
loop course like that.
Yeah. Well, so what about, I mean, part of it is that I've done several loop races, and I love them. And of course, we don't have 62 miles up there, and we wanted to do 100K. But I tell you, it's kind of sitting and watching for crew. It's fantastic. I mean, and for your crew, and then also for the runners, they would love to see. I mean, knowing that they're going to get every 5 miles, you had some support, but every loop you're getting to see your friends and family and your crew and have everything there, because we've all done races where your crew is getting in and they're driving and they're trying to figure out where to go and how to park, and it was like a party down in that bowl really for them. And they'd figure out when the runners are coming through, and they'd get up, and I'd say to Bob, "When's HollyAnn coming? When you expect her?" He said, "Well, I just set my alarm to wake up from my nap, and I'm expecting her in another 10 minutes or so." So that part of it, I think, was good. Could you feel that too? Just coming back through, was it I mean, an inspiration for you, or kind of a jolt of energy coming back through the loops each time?
Definitely. Like I said, I'd always kind of get in a bad headspace with how I was feeling when I was out there. And then as soon as I crested the hill, as soon as y'all could see me, you were cheering, and I could hear you all the way through the finish line. And then even I think you guys could kind of see us through the woods up until the first mile, maybe at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
And y'all would see us again, and you'd cheer again. So that was just super incredible to be a part of.
It was really cool too. In the morning, we could see your headlights on that first one. That first one, geez, and we could see your headlights several times. They're down there cheering. And then after dark, when people were going out after dark, we'd send them out, and then we knew who it was, and we could cheer for them from way down there, and they'd yell back. And that part of it was really pretty cool too. But for you, one of I think the tougher things would be, and you can talk to this, is that once you kind of after that first loop, you're really running on your own. Your next closest competition wasn't close enough to push you. You may have been chasing the boys, but they had a little bit of a lead. So you were essentially out there, time trialing on your own, right? I mean, is that what it felt like for you?
Definitely. I guess that is the cool thing about having a loop course, is that, after you get a couple loops in, you start passing people. So you're just kind of looking forward to maybe I'll see someone here in the next half mile. But yeah, it could definitely get pretty lonely. Thankfully, I'm pretty good at soloing and pushing myself in my own mind. But yeah, I guess that was kind of my motivator, was working towards, seeing somebody ahead in the woods and
working towards them.
Yeah.
I had several people say that when you passed them on the loops, they had no idea you were coming. You're like a silent assassin. coming from behind. My wife was one of them. She said, "HollyAnn passed me." I didn't even hear it coming.
I kept wondering, I felt like I was breathing loud, but I'd have to, within a couple feet, I have to be like, excuse me.
Excuse me.
slip my way around.
Oh, no, you just give them a hip check and move on out of the way. You know, what's cool about, about our community? Nobody, well, I shouldn't say that. I always say, look, I've met 5 people. I can count on my hand, and I can remember 5 people that I don't ever care to see again that I've met on the trails. Everybody else, absolutely lovely, and I could spend all kinds of time with them. But when you get out to these trail runs, it's pretty remarkable, the people that are out there, including families and crew. A lot of fun for that too. So tell me a little bit. I mean, what do you have? What else do you have planned? What do you have coming up?
So if you know anything about me, I'm a little bipolar with my goals and what I'm chasing. Obviously, I did a 15-miler road run a week before 100K. So that's kind of how the rest of my schedule looks for the year. Currently, my next race will be a marathon in Columbus.
Okay. Wow.
And then I qualified for Ironman 70.3 World Championship. So that will be at the end of October. And then I'll go right back into trail running. So I have JFK 50-miler in November.
Okay.
And then hoping to do Bandera in January.
Nice. Awesome. So that JFK is an interesting one to me because it's a big one and it brings a ton of talent, right? So has Bob Luther given you a ranking yet?
No, I don't know if I want to know his ranking.
You need to get that ranking. Hey, Bobby, if you're listening, man, give her a ranking.
Stoke some fire.
Yeah, I did. I mean, it's competitive, and those are fast times. It's going to set up really well for you, knowing that part of that is technical and the AT, and then there's a whole lot of that C&O Canal and some road. So it really, I think, that's a great race for you, don't you believe?
I think so. A little bit best of both worlds. Being able to clash the trail with still being able to come out and race, and still, even with my triathlon experience, you get a little bit of that where you're kind of jolted from going from one sport to another. So this kind of, you'll come down off the AT, super steep descend, and then immediately put on your racing flats and take off as fast as you can.
Yeah. Will you change shoes in a race like that?
You will. Typically, the top elite men and women will put on their racing flats and finish the rest of the race.
So is that the first weekend in November? That's typically when that is, right?
It'll be November 19th this year.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, that's right. New York's first. It's the same weekend as deer season in West Virginia. That's why it's one that I've always had an interest in doing, but just priorities, right? So that's cool. And so a 70.3 too. So are you swimming throughout the year as well? Is that part of your week?
I do. Swimming is my weakest and my least favorite. So I typically get 2 to 3 swims a weekend. I cycle nearly as much as I run. Over the summer, I was getting anywhere from 125 to 200 miles a week. I got in 3 centuries of cycling this summer. So I was.
Wow.
We have 2 friends that are racing Ironman Maryland this weekend. So I was kind of doing full training. So I'm a little overtrained for the 70.3, but I'm starting to crank back down and incorporate more running and swap to that 70.3 distance. Okay.
Now, is Chris going to race that one too?
No, he won't be doing Maryland.
Okay. Is that the championship, the 70 point? Where's the 70.3, the championship?
St. George, Utah.
Okay. And is he racing in that one?
No. So I qualified at Chattanooga and with a 3rd place age group, and he was 20th place age group.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's so hard and so competitive. I got started doing in this like endurance stuff, doing triathlons too, and the run was always my weakest. So the bike was first, the swim was second, and the run was third. And I swim some now too, but it's such a good sport for cross training.
It
So
really is.
yeah,
I think like there's two pros to it for me. They kind of keep me interested in moving forward. And one is being able to incorporate the swim and cycling. I've definitely seen less injuries. And
yeah.
I love seeing progress, and watching myself like grow in cycling has been super exciting.
But it's it's all about the bike on that too, and and I think the leg strength that comes from that, the turnover, it all really complements the run too. But there's nothing like running to get you in shape.
No.
It just is. If you think you're going to do some other sport and come out and hammer a run, it's just not going to happen.
And
Right?
it was really cool this summer too to watch. Like I would do a really tough trail run, and I'd hop on the bike a day or two later, and I would notice that my legs were stronger on the bike. And then I would do really hard bike, and I would take off on the trails, and I noticed my legs were strong on the trails. So they were kind of like bouncing back and forth, and that was really cool to watch.
Well, and the other thing too, you talk about dead legs. You do those bricks, the bike and run, and we'll talk about dead legs. You ride a bike and then hop off and try to run. You get you used to it, but you also
It does.
realize that a little bit, your legs come right back too. So, it's not the end of the world. You can run with heavy legs.
That's very true. Definitely a familiarity for being able to do that in ultras or the end of super long runs like that.
Yeah. So let me ask you, we've kind of had some conversations in the wee hours on Saturday night about a little bit about the course, but let's go back to the 100K. How would you describe that course to somebody if they said, tell me about it? How would you describe that in your words?
So I think how I've like kind of pieced it together in my mind is the first half is a little more climbing than the second half. And so I think I was kind of getting through the loop like that in my mind too. Once I got to the halfway point, I tell myself, there's a little more downhill in the second half. So you can just relax until you get to the finish line, which isn't totally true because there's definitely some more climbs,
There is.
but there's a lot
It's
more.
just that one Kudlak. That Kudlak is fun, but that was intentional. We don't want to make it too easy.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, that was kind of my goal in my head was, push these hills in the first half, and then it'll be a little easier in the second half. So I kind of kept bouncing back and forth with that. And that actually ended up being my goal for this race was I knew exactly where all the climbs were, and I made it a big goal of mine to, no matter how slow I shuffled, not to walk any of those hills. I was gonna push all of those hills if I could. And it definitely got tough on that 5 and 6, but
oh my gosh,
I was able to conquer that goal. But that's definitely
I knew. Go ahead.
That's definitely how I'd describe the course, is a little more rolling in the front, and then you kind of have a rolling decline to the end.
Right.
Super buffed out trails. The trails are awesome. A little rocky here and there, but like you said in the beginning, you guys do so much amazing work to these trails. They're so well taken care of that they're very runnable. And yeah, it was an awesome race to be able to run on those trails.
Yeah, it's kind of like a couple things. I describe it as sneaky hard. It's a sneaky hard course because it's really hard, and a lot of runners said this, and I know it's really hard to get in a rhythm because there's turns, there's rocks, there's roots, it's up and down. You're working from, being a loop. The low spot of the race is the start and finish. You're working your way up at the halfway is Izzy's. That's the high point of that entire mountain up there. Part of the reason we did that, I knew like that sunrise would be amazing because the sunrise comes up and then you get to see the sunset. Unfortunately, we didn't get a sunset because it was raining by that point. Fortunately, unfortunately, the rain was pretty nice actually for the runners.
It was awesome.
Did you get to see the sunrise at all?
Yes, it was kind of like a blazing orange through the tree line. It was really pretty. I'm sure it was really pretty for you guys there at the finish.
We didn't see it quite as much just because, you know, when you're up on the high spot, you can see it. I had a friend that in the middle of the race texted me and said, dude, the sunrise up here is amazing. You were right. So, and that's, you know, kind of wanted to have that. And for the aid station workers too, they'd be up there to watch that aid station. Those guys, they were there all day. The four main ones up there, 5, all day long. They stayed up there from, you know, up there at 6 in the morning. They came and watched you all start. Then they broke down about between 11:30 and 12. But that day, and you know, the thing is, they loved it. They're like, we're doing it next year. That was so much fun. We're doing it.
I don't know about I don't know about anyone else later in the day, but they never broke a stride on the energy they had every single time I came in. They were awesome.
Yeah, and none of those guys are kids. I mean, a couple of them are retired. The other ones probably could, you know, go at any time. They're not kids, but they've all raced. They've all organized events, you know, because, and this is just kind of the brag on a lot of them. Our aides, all of our captains. So we had, you know, MidCourse aid station captain, that was Kevin Slack and his crew. And I just said, he said, man, what do you need? And I said, I need that aid station up there. You guys do it. And it's going to be a bit of a slog. He's like, whatever you need, we'll do it. We'll do it. And so I would just gave him the stuff and I said, you know what to do, go do it. So just own your area. And they did it. You know, I'm not a micromanager anyways. I'm very detailed, but I'm not a micromanager. So I would just say, dude, our cold food captains, this is what I'd like for you to do. Make it happen. Our hot food captain running that grill and the quesadillas and the pancakes, my friend Jason Asbury said, dude, just make it happen. You know, our shuttles, Kudlak, you're in charge. You get those guys going, and they made it happen. It was like, you know, just get responsible people. And that was so good. But everything that happens up there is that we've got a fantastic committee, Ashley, Brandon, Hager, Stewarts, Robert, and Vanessa. I mean, everybody puts it in, but it's just to watch people like have pride and own their responsibility and community. I mean, it's really pretty amazing. So it doesn't surprise me that they were the lift. And I heard it all day long. That MidCourse aid station was pretty awesome up there.
They were. All you guys were. If anyone came out to this event, they wouldn't have known whatsoever it was an inaugural event. Everyone knew exactly what to do. Everyone was so loving and motivating. It was just incredible.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that too. You know, the one other thing I was going to say on the course, I heard that was your goal to run the whole thing, and then that you did it. It blew my mind. I was like, if this was a 10-mile race, I could run the whole course. Although you get off of Dawson's and make that climb up to that aid station, it's a ball buster to try and run that entire thing. Was that not probably the hardest stretch that you had to run?
100%. That was always like I was taking down my head because it kind of starts at that mile 4 mark and like works up to 5. And so like I would always check and be like, okay, I'm almost there. And so what I would always do, the really steep climb to the intersection where you make a hard right and then start the switchbacks. As soon as I got to it, I'd look down at the ground because I knew if I looked up and saw how far I had to climb, that it might make me break my goal. So as soon as I got to the bottom, I'd look down at the ground and just keep pushing.
Yeah. I wonder if the guys walked any. Do you know? I mean, did Alex and
I have no idea. I would be curious to know.
We'll find out. If you might be the only one, HollyAnn, just because you had it in your mind that you were going to. It's so impressive for 62 miles.
I don't know if I'll ever do that again in a race.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is, it's like that was it was an internal goal, but you certainly didn't have to, you know.
No, that's true.
I describe to people all the time, you know, that walking break is so good for you. It's good for your mind. It's good for your muscles. It's, just even the neuromuscular part of it to get a break is good for you. But you can do it now. And if push comes to shove and you really have to push because you're in a race, you can run that whole thing.
That's true.
That's good. So one more question. We talked a little bit about, so this is what I was going to say about the course, is that night we're kind of sitting there as it was raining and waiting on those last finishers, just a little bit about the course. And so Brandon asked, do we keep the course the same next year? And I love, of course, most races have course records, right? But then I thought too, we can actually have, there's a couple of things that are interesting. I'd like to get your opinion on it. Like Hard Rock, for instance, it does a clockwise and a counterclockwise, and it's going both ways. So that's one option to keep it interesting, because his question is, how do we keep these people coming back? How do we keep our top runners, and how do we keep everybody coming back to keep it interesting? Do they get bored? And I said, well, it's once a year. I don't think so. Course records, you definitely want to chase them. So that's one option. And then we could have what I'm calling right now the OG 100K course. So the original grand 100K course, which was the one we ran this weekend. And then maybe doing an option, because we do have a lot of trails we'd like to showcase. And we'd like to be able to get you out on those and maybe make them too different. The next one, got a few that kind of flow better, I think would be faster, but we don't want to have it to where it's, competing with that course record. So, I mean, if you look at something like that, would you want to see the same course every time? Would you like to see a variety and come back and set the course record on the second one too?
Well, I think that's really hard. Because for me, I typically do want to come back a second time, because you figure out where you can work on things and where you need to work on things. Like where Saturday I didn't feel as great as I want to, be like, I'd love to see, like if my legs weren't heavy after lap one, what could I do on that course? But like you said, it's super exciting to think about having a brand new course that's something new to set goals on and something new to PR at. So I'm not sure that you could go wrong either way.
Yeah. We'll see. It's not going to be 4 courses. We'll either maybe do it in reverse, maybe come with I think we'll probably do a new one and have an A and B type. I want to call this one the OG HHK course. So the original grand 100K course, and then we'll have an alternate and figure out how to tie in those trails. I mean, one of the things I love to do is put these courses together. We have a crush run. We've done a few other things too, and some 10Ks. I've helped design some courses. Love to be able to do that and piece them together. And I even wheeled this one 3 times with an engineering wheel, trying to get that distance. What was your distance? Did you have your distance on your GPS?
I think it was a little shy of 61. But the weird thing about that is that, Caleb and I had the same thing happen, where our first lap was 10 miles flat, and then each one, it's like it got longer. It was like 10.1 the next time around, 10.2. I don't know if there was a glitch going on or what, but I know, like in the email, didn't you say that y'all have spent 13,000 hours? Is that correct?
Yeah, more than that now. Right.
So I know, like, even this past year, every time that we've gone and gotten trail running and been able to enjoy meets, we'll come and we're like, hey, there's a new trail to run. And that's always so exciting. So I know that will be a hard thing to do too, because y'all are still putting in the work and building these amazing trails that, as you go along, they're going to be further and different 10-mile options. So it'll be hard not to choose those for a race too.
We just finished a new one last night. The build team did Broughton's Blaze, and it goes down the other side of Tackett's Branch. And there's some new stuff that's pretty gnarly back there. It takes you all the way down, and you got to come all the way back up. I mean, it's going to be some hard stuff. And so, that's the thing. I kind of like to, one of the I think the faster trails out there is Lyles, if you've been on Lyles, because it doesn't have quite as many switchbacks. My theory on the distances, first of all, GPS aren't perfect. You get, the canopy, you get the foliage, but then anytime you have a switchback, it depends on how fast you're going, it can miss, if it's just missing this much of the switchback or, 10 feet of it, because it's so close to each other, that adds up after all. Mine almost always reach short, but I ran it, and I mean, I don't know how many times, walked it and wheeled it, and I got as close to 10.3. Because two things we'd like to do. Number one is, we would like to, I'm going to look at maybe doing, shouldn't even say this, but they'd like to have a trail championship in West Virginia too. And so maybe using it as a 100K championship. So I'm going to start those discussions and see what it takes to do it. So I wanted to be as close to 10.3 and the 62 as we could. And so that's part of it, is getting it nailed, but I don't know how exactly we'll figure out how to certify that. But as our winner, not only are you invited back and we're giving you a free entry, but we are also, as I told you, we're giving you 2 nights at our host hotel at the Wyndham Wingate. So we really do hope that you come back, no matter what that course is. We want you to come back, especially in West Virginia, because our goal, HollyAnn, is to build this thing, is to grow it. And we want to get you a ton of great ladies out there, but we want you to duke it out, just like Caleb and Dan and Alex and to defend our West Virginia home turf. Man, we want people from other states to come in and race you, but we want our West Virginians to show them what it's about. Because I told people all day long that we have up front here, we have runners that will compete anywhere in the nation. They will compete. I'm not saying you're going to win every race, but you will compete anywhere in the nation. That's the type of athletes and runners that we have in HollyAnn and in Alex and in Dan and in Caleb. You guys can compete anywhere.
It has been super special and unique to have us all in one area, being able to push each other. And I mean, it's not just us four. We have so many trail runners, and even like this past weekend, being able to be a part of Meeks and go out and train at Meeks, you run into so many people, you meet so many people. And that was another super special thing about this past weekend, is being able to pass people and know like how hard they've trained for this race and what they're accomplishing. I met Fern a couple months back, ran into her on the trail, and she told me how she just moved here and she's basically at Meeks every day. And I know when I saw that she had signed up, I was like, I hope more than anything that she can take a podium spot. And because I watched her train, I watched her do 30 miles at Meeks a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's like, it'd be so amazing if she had an awesome day out there, and sure enough, she did, and she took second. So it was so special to be able to watch that too.
So with Fern, what's really cool about the ladies is we have you that won from Huntington, Fern from Hurricane, and so the rest of her story is she's 6 months postpartum, and she stopped on maybe her 4th loop, whatever loop it was, and breastfed her baby. Her husband brought him. She fed him. He walked with her and then brought him back down. And then she continued the race. She finished in 13 and a half hours, which I always think of, 15 hours is a good, it's equivalent of a 24-hour, 100 miler. She did 13 and a half hours, and just absolutely impressed. She's tough as nails though, too.
She is.
She had some things. She is tough as nails. And then in our 3rd place was Shannon from Illinois that brought her family in for the weekend. They were hanging out. So I love seeing an out-of-stater come in here and get a podium spot too. So really, I mean, you all had, it was kind of a really cool thing. On the men's side, Alex and Caleb won 2, and then another Hurricane native and Andrew Dawson that they came in 3rd place for the men too. So really, really cool just to see all that. Maybe the first time we do it, because if it grows, who knows when it grows, who knows what's going to happen with that too. So bringing up Fern, we were all cheering for her. We were cheering for everybody, but cheering for Fern. That's a great story.
Definitely.
So again, no pressure, but you're invited back. Free entry in a free hotel. If you want to stay in your own bed, get your crew, invite somebody to come in. And, friends and family, it was so much fun being there and just watching. I got to got to hang out with a lot of families and cheer too, and it was great. But again, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to say congratulations to you. Happy for you. Proud of you. Can't wait to see some other races that you do. We're always cheering for you here too.
Well, thank you so much, Matt. It means a lot. And like I said, just thank you all so much for pouring your hearts into that event. It was such a special weekend.
You're entirely welcome. You and every other runner out there. You know, it was absolutely, from the Meeks Mountain Trail Alliance and our events team, it was absolutely our pleasure. And, you know, again, we're still riding high on it too. So much fun to see it all come together, and our volunteers too. So everybody out there, next year will be September the 9th, 2023 for the second annual Hurricane 100K. Love to see you come out. So we have our solo runners. We're going to talk about the relay, but 3-person relays. See what the course is like. We do the same thing. I think we're probably going to have another one. We're going to have an A and a B, an OG and a B course. We'll figure out what to call them. But on behalf of the Meeks Mountain Trail Alliance, our events team of Ashley, Brandon, Hager, Stewards, Robert, and Vanessa, all of our volunteers, all of our great sponsors, thank you all. See you next time.